Well, hi there, folks. Welcome to the program. This, of course, is Stinchfield the Podcast. A lot to talk about. The COVID shot, again, getting blamed for a rapid increase in cognitive decline, brain function, all kinds of problems. Now, what's interesting is we have seen, according to a recent study, this decline in cognitive function going on for a long time. But it appears that the COVID vaccine may have been like gasoline to the fire to speed this up. Go figure. More problems with the jab. And then, of course, I want to talk about this groundbreaking study about vaccinations in general and their relationship to autism. And the real serious concern that it's the amount of vaccinations given at one time that increase the risk of autism. New study out. Dr. Peter McCullough is one of the brilliant minds behind that study. He's here with me to talk about it and break down all of this, about what you need to know. And then, of course, folks, how you get rid, if you took the COVID shot, of the spike protein. The Spike Detox from the Wellness Company is a fabulous product. Again, I urge you to go to twc.health/grant. Use the promo code GRANT for 10% off. That spike protein is fabulous. I've been talking a lot about the Mars product. That's for men out there that want to, have an increase in libido, have an increase in energy, have an increase in stamina. This is a male product that is making a huge difference, boosting testosterone levels like you wouldn't believe. And then, of course, the old tried and true, folks. You know you are not prepared unless you have a Wellness Company prescription medication kit on hand. You got ivermectin in here, amoxicillin, Z-Pak, so many other very important prescription medications that will come right to your door so you and your family are ready for anything. twc.health/grant. Use that promo code GRANT for 10% off. All right, let's get the show started.
Uncensored and unapologetic. This is Stinchfield. Here's your host, Grant Stinchfield.
All right, welcome everybody. Not just me, but Dr. Peter McCullough is here. He is with the Wellness Company, of course. Doc, it's always great to see you.
Great to see you, Grant.
All right, I do want to talk about your study, which is making so much news about vaccinations and autism. But before I get to that, I also saw the study by your colleague, spelled out by your colleague, Nicholas Holscher, about cognitive decline. And these increases in cognitive decline we've been seeing over the decades, a relationship quite possibly to COVID, the COVID shot when it came on the scene. What are you making of this study?
Cognitive decline or a decrease in mental function, certainly greatly concerning. This study quoted was in Annals of Internal Medicine. I think the number has hit about 8% of the U.S. population, which is a big number. We typically think about dementia, Alzheimer's disease, but there's also cognitive impairment early in age. In fact, with autism, about 25% of children have significantly impaired IQ. It's called profound autism. So it's at both ends of the age spectrum. And it's been going up in a steady tonic fashion since about 2016 or so. And it may have actually started to take off more through the pandemic. The spike protein, which is on the surface of the virus, loaded into the body with the vaccine, clearly gets into the brain. That's what causes brain fog. And with the vaccine, it's been linked to acceleration in Alzheimer's and dementia in a paper by Rowe and colleagues from Korea. So people out there who have elderly loved ones who have taken the COVID vaccines, and if they've seen them decline rapidly in terms of mental function, it may be due to the vaccine.
All right, so this is interesting because I'm looking at this study. And I'll read from the email from Courageous Discourse that you guys send, and I urge everyone to sign up for your email and Substack list because it's great. It says here, according to CDC behavioral risk factor surveillance system data, prevalence of this cognitive decline rose from 5.3% in 2013 to 7.4% in 2023. Even just since 2019, rates climbed from roughly 6.4 to 7.4% nationwide, a 16% jump in only 4 years. The most dramatic rise occurred among younger adults aged 18 to 39, where rates doubled from 5.1 to 9.7%, and that climb started to begin around 2016. So cognitive decline in 18 to 39-year-olds?
Right. That's worrisome, Grant. That's either an effect of autistic kids, graduating forward in terms of time, or it's something else affecting mental function in young people. I worry about drug abuse, honestly, with all the various psychedelic drugs, fentanyl, crack cocaine, alcoholism, all of that can affect mental function.
What about the vapes we're seeing with kids?
Grant, it's not good. I don't encourage this at all. The lungs should only have clean, fresh air. When we inhale these solvents, and they're different than inhaling the smoke from cigarettes, they do get into the bloodstream. They may have effects.
All right. Do you think the COVID shot then that this, as Nicholas described it, that it may be gasoline to this cognitive decline that we've been seeing going on for almost a decade among the American population?
Well, certainly, since the trend was there before the pandemic, now layer on COVID, long COVID, and the vaccine, sure, it could be just accelerating this. It's greatly concerning. I think anybody who has a loved one who is declining, they should get antibodies measured against the spike protein. That's the LabCorp spike protein test, Grant. So to go to labcorp.com, go to Labs on Demand, Infectious Diseases, COVID antibody testing, click on it, sign up, pay $69, and go get your spike test done. Figure out where you are. If you're less than 1,000, it's not going to be playing a role here. Greater than 5,000, different story. Probably is 10, 15, 25,000 people can be in trouble.
All right. So greater than 5,000, could you have that number if you had the virus, or is that number only going to be there if you got the vaccine?
Severe virus cases. I saw one of them today. A severe virus case can crank it up. I've seen it higher than 5,000 for sure. But most times it's the vaccine. You get to 10,000, 15,000, 25,000. It's a residual vaccine effect. We know Pfizer and Moderna stay in the body for a very long time. Janssen should be a big explosion of spike protein production, and then it should be out of the body. And then, of course, Novavax, that's the lowest dose of the spike. That should be much less.
So what is it about this vaccine that every time I read a new paper, I read a new study, it's claiming the vaccine is responsible for it? The rise in cancers, cognitive decline. I just saw, I think it was in one of your newsletters that Nicholas was saying that it was a decrease in certain eye cells that was decreasing. What, is this vaccine really responsible for every negative thing going on today?
Grant, it's almost as if the whole world's population has been poisoned. Remember, this protein was devised in the Chinese biosecurity lab in Wuhan, China. It's not a natural protein. It's not supposed to be in the body. And you get spike protein from having the infection, which almost all of us had, and from taking the vaccine. So it's almost as if we've all been poisoned. The human body can't get rid of it, without taking the ultimate spike detox and wellness company. So it stays in the body and it causes disease. It causes heart disease, neurologic disease, autoimmunity, blood clots, and maybe even cancer. It's like, we have something in our body that we should not have. Well, you don't get this when you get the common cold or influenza or anything else. It's only with this man-made virus and the vaccines.
I guess I'll ask you this. I don't know if I don't think I've ever asked a question before, but could there be something else than just the spike protein in the vaccine? I mean, it seems like the spike protein is the evil culprit in everything. Is there anything else in this vaccine that could be causing the harm?
With Pfizer, Moderna, and Janssen, they use lipid nanoparticles, and people have searched, what is it about these lipid nanoparticles? They have a polyethylene glycol, Pfizer, Moderna. They have a polysorbate 80 if it's Janssen. I don't think these have the long-lasting effects in the body. Now, clearly, Pfizer, Moderna, the messenger RNA has been pseudo-uridinated. It's been permanently made synthetic. And maybe some of the effects we're seeing in the body have to do with the fact that now we've taken on foreign messenger RNA that we can't get rid of. A paper by Karagokoulis and colleagues from Greece, posited that potentially thermodynamics have been changed in the body, that the body, if you take Pfizer and Moderna, you now take on additional genetic responsibilities to keep responding to the genetic code to produce the spike protein. And that throws the body out of thermodynamic balance. Remember, the human body's in a perfect set of balance in terms of protein production and protein breakdown. Now you take a synthetic genetic code, you're throwing off the balance of the body that God gave you.
I guess what gets to the heart of what we've been talking about for so long is that they had to have known all this. I mean, does it really take brilliance to figure this out, that this was going to cause all these kind of problems? And if they did know about it, then this is just criminal that this was put on to the masses.
You know, there was a slide produced by the National Institutes of Health, CDC, FDA, the agencies, October of 2020, it's before the vaccines came out, and it listed everything they thought the vaccine could cause. Myocarditis, heart damage, blood clots, autoimmune problems. So, but the importance of that slide was it's October of 2020. The vaccines don't get released until December 10th, 2020. So you're right, Grant. They knew. They knew ahead of time that certain people were going to have problems with these vaccines. They simply didn't care about safety. They were rushing to get these out. They thought the benefits would far outweigh the risks, and it just didn't work out.
Let me ask you about blood clots, because this seems to be a common problem. I've done a lot of stories with a gentleman who's been doing research on corpses and going to embalmers who are pulling out all kinds of blood clots out of the bodies that they're embalming. I then talked to a friend of mine at the gym. He's a very, very healthy 56-year-old guy. He's the same age as me. He has this severe whooshing in his ear. He goes and gets a CAT scan. Turns out he's got a blood clot in his brain. And
oh no,
they say they don't think it's going to be. They don't want to go in. It's not growing. He feels okay about it. He says, but I don't wish this on my enemy because it's just continues. He hears it in there is how he describes it. He got the COVID shot. He said he only took, I forget whether it was 1 or 2, but not more than that. And I'm like, could this be the cause of that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think new blood clots in the brain, in fact, for Janssen and AstraZeneca, they were pulled off the market. They had those official warnings. It was called central venous thrombosis. But all the vaccines cause it because they load spike protein into the brain. And Grant, I think I should set up a clinic location at your gym based on everything that turns up there. But you're right. So new bleeding into the brain and new blood clots, there's ample evidence that it's largely due to the spike protein. I think within the brain, it's largely the vaccines. You need a big dose of spike protein. But blood clots in the legs that shoot to the lungs, that's called deep venous thrombosis and pulmonary embolism. Grant, I think that's pretty equal between the infection and the vaccine.
Interesting.
I had a lady last week, never took the shots, just had COVID a few times. Sure enough, had a minor orthopedic procedure on the leg and developed a whopper blood clot. It went from the ankle all the way up to her belly button. I mean, that's a huge column of clot. If that thing breaks free, it's fatal. And she had to have a certain filter put in there. So this COVID illness is making all of us more prone to blood clotting. Grant, everybody should be on alert for the development of blood clots.
Is there anything that can be done for a blood clot? Is there anything you can take? Does the spike detox from the wellness company help with that? Is there anything that you find? I mean, ivermectin seems to be a miracle drug.
But for blood clots, the ultimate spike detox, Grant, that has nattokinase and bromelain in it. And for sure, those are, blood clot dissolvers, anticoagulants. So they work in concert with aspirin and with more serious blood thinners. So if you're on ultimate spike detox, then in a sense, you are on a form of a natural blood thinner and you have a bit of protection. I've never seen a patient develop a new blood clot when they're on the ultimate spike detox. And I do worry because I travel in airplanes and a lot of blood clots form on the airplanes, and I make sure that for sure I'm taking my spike detox. I don't want to end up with a whopper blood clot in my leg, because I had the COVID infection in the past, which I did.
Is that something you should take as a a daily supplement, the COVID spike, the spike detox?
I think you should. And I have a sample. Let me grab it. This is what we're talking about, Grant. We're talking about the ultimate spike detox from the Wellness Company. And yeah, I think people should take at least preventively 2 capsules a day on an empty stomach. Any spike protein in the body, 2 capsules twice a day. A high spike protein level, over 5,000. Most of my patients, under a doctor's direction, 4 capsules twice a day on an empty stomach. They need to clear out the spike protein.
Even if you didn't have the vax,
right,
then you still, most everybody had COVID at some point in their lives.
Right.
Is there a number where if you're under, you talked about going and getting tested, if you're under a certain number where you just don't need this?
Right. I think under 1,000, you don't need it.
Under 1,000. Oh, okay.
Yeah. So Grant, my mother-in-law who lives with us, she's 92, and she took 2 Pfizer shots back in 2021. She was in Toronto. She never felt the shots in her arm, never had any side effects. And believe me, I am watching her carefully. Mm-hmm. We couldn't believe it. My wife and I can't believe it. We finally did the test on her. She came back at 200. So wow. She's under 1,000. So Grant, not everybody who took the shot is at risk. I mean, she must have gotten a dud.
This is what I was telling my friend at the gym. And, it's interesting you said, because you and I talk a lot about all these friends of mine that have all these issues, including one of them who died that I believe sped up his cancer from taking the shots. All gym guys, I think it might have something to do with we're all into our health. And so we're constantly talking about our health and what we're doing and what's happening differently. Maybe one reason why the gym, but maybe my gym is unlucky. I won't name it then. The gym in Dallas that hurt them. So when we talk about all of this stuff happening, now you have this other study that's out that makes a correlation between the number of vaccinations you get at one time versus possibility the causation of autism. Am I saying this right?
Yeah, Grant, it doesn't look good. Now, the last time this topic was formally reviewed was in 2004 by the Institute of Medicine. And then at that time, they said, listen, the linkage between childhood vaccination and autism, it's just theoretical, can't be proven. Now, the McCullough Foundation has put out really this extensive report, and this was grant funded. It was independently performed. And 82% of the information in here now is new since 2004. So it's new information. And the results are clear and convincing. 79% of all studies have confirmed the linkage between childhood vaccination and autism in a susceptible child, not in all the children. So a susceptible child would be a child born to older parents, a premature baby born before 37 weeks, a child who has siblings with autism. If the mother had taken kind of heavy drugs during pregnancy, that would be antipsychotics, anti-epileptics, antidepressives, not Tylenol, by the way. Tylenol did not shake out as a risk. And then going into vaccination, getting a whole bunch of vaccines at once. So at one of the times, for instance, the MMR vaccine, that's 3 right there, is given with 5 other shots. And if the child reacts poorly to that, develops a fever, maybe even a seizure, watch out. Autism spectrum disorder can develop. And particularly what we're really worried about is not just a little neurodiversity, Grant. We're worried about profound autism. That is a marked reduction in IQ, head banging, can't talk, screaming, can't use the toilet alone, lifelong disability, Grant. It's 27% of the entire autism population.
Wow. That alone is frightening. And the study found that by and large, children with no vaccines were healthier than children with vaccines. Is that correct?
That's true. In the modern day, I would say in the modern day, because, we have better nutrition and cleanliness, and we have screening detection, we have antibiotics, we have so many capabilities we didn't have, 100 years ago, that for sure, if a child is healthy at birth today, if the parents skip all the vaccines, there's a dozen studies that show this, the child is healthier. They just don't develop, allergic diseases, food allergies, ADHD, autism, tics, or seizures. They're free of all these problems.
I was going to ask you about ADHD, and it seems like there's been an explosion of that diagnosis. So I've always been curious, is it an explosion of the diagnosis, or is it an actual explosion of ADHD? Was it around and we just said, the kid was hyperactive or whatever? But what are you seeing on that front, and is there a relationship to the vaccines when it comes to ADHD?
There is increased screening and detection, that's for sure. And of course, there's treatment with Adderall-like drugs. But I can tell you, it's been an explosion. It's going up in lockstep with autism. So ADHD, I believe, is at 13% of the childhood population now, according to the CDC. Autism at 3.2%. This is astronomical. I mean, Grant, when I was a kid in the 60s, I don't remember this at all. Now, granted, there can be some kids who are a little bit more hyper and rambunctious than other kids, but I don't remember kids taking drugs. Now, a sizable number of children in elementary school and junior high are taking prescription drugs.
Well, I wonder if it's the same type of scenario as when we were growing up, we had tomboys. And tomboys were girls who loved to play sports, and they were active. And then many of the tomboys I knew grew up to be the most beautiful women and thrived as women as adults. In today's world, they want to turn them into a transgender male or female or whatever the hell you call it. They want to change their sex. Is it the same thing, a hyperactive kid? Is it now that we've got to hype them up on Adderall? I mean, I hate Adderall. I understand that it probably works for some kids need it, but I think it's probably overprescribed.
Oh, it's definitely overprescribed. It's taken for academic performance by kids in high school and in college all the time. It's grossly overprescribed. And it does lead to anxiety and other disorders. But no, I think the transgender crisis, Grant, is actually driven by autism. It's driven by an organic increase in autism. Autistic children, when they grow up, they have trouble communicating with other people, trouble looking at people in the eye. You can always tell this. And for sure, they have trouble with dating. Dating is nearly impossible for a child with moderate or severe autism, and they tend to be suggestible. And before you know it, an autistic child is being told that maybe they're in the wrong gender. So the majority of young people coming forward for gender change have autism. They don't need gender change. They need behavioral counseling and care. So the transgender crisis is coming out of the autism crisis.
And there's no real cure for autism, is there?
There's no treatment. Now, on the September 22nd press conference by Trump and RFK, they brought up folinic acid. There's 2 small trials. And, I can tell you that most of the children need some supplemental folate. Most of the autism websites have had folinic acid or leucovorin on there as something we can prescribe. It's a safe prescription. It should be over the counter. They can take other forms of folate. But beyond that, there are no drugs FDA approved, very little research. The CDC has not researched autism virtually at all. No prospective cohort studies, no gene expression or proteomic studies. The CDC could have done the report that we did at the McCullough Foundation. The CDC's got $9 billion annual budget. They got 12,000 employees and a ton of doctors and PhDs and masters of public health. And can you imagine, after all these decades, it takes me and the McCullough Foundation to do the autism report while the CDC is literally doing nothing about this crisis?
Two questions. One is, do you think it's because they don't want to know, because it will tie back to big pharma and all the problems there? And the second question would be, your study that made this link, how is it being received from the establishment crowd, I guess? Let's take the first question first. You think it's because they didn't want to know?
Yeah, I think it's because they don't want to know. They would quickly, as we did, conclude that the vaccines are linked to autism, that in a sense we're doing it to ourselves. The government is in the vaccine business, Grant. The CDC actively promotes vaccination. The government purchases about half of all childhood vaccines in the country. The agencies advertise the vaccines on TV for the companies. And the U.S. government's in the vaccine business. The 1986 Vaccine Injury Compensation Act had a requirement in it that it relieved the companies of liability for the vaccines, but the requirement was HHS had to produce a biannual vaccine safety report to Congress to show how they're making vaccines better by working with the companies.
Did it ever happen?
Never happened, Grant.
That's the kind of thing that, like, literally I'm left shaking my head. People for so long had faith in government, had faith in the medical community, had faith in pharmaceutical. All of them were in bed together. It was a big scam, was on the American people, Doc. It really is.
It's disgraceful, Grant. Now, our report has been well accepted, certainly in the health freedom community. A lot of people said, boy, we're glad to see this come out. We thought this was the case. It was an independent, grant-funded, meticulously done report, over 300 citations. I mean, we just have this down. Now, there's been no credible doctor with medical authority who's criticized any of the data in the report. But we've had ad hominem attacks, mainly from bots or anonymous people. But, unhinged Peter Hotez, professor of pediatrics at Baylor in Houston, vaccine promoter, he tweeted out, "Oh, these anti-vaxxers want to hurt people." And, nothing can be further from the truth, Grant. We don't want to hurt anybody. In fact, we want to protect people from vaccine side effects. And vaccines, almost certainly have a role for those at high enough risk for certain conditions. But I think we're moving away from a one-size-fits-all. The report was sent to HHS. I know they're looking at it. I've got feedback from a few branches of government. It'll probably come to Senate hearings. I can just tell you that almost certainly. Yeah. And 4 actions, I think, are going to come out of this at the deliberations. One, I think we're going to end up dropping the 1986 Vaccine Injury Compensation Act. The companies are going to face liability for the products, and you'll see them pull their vaccines off the market quicker than you can shake a stick at.
Imagine that'll tell you everything you need to know. If that goes away, and then all of a sudden they face liability for what they put on the market, and they start pulling everything, the whole story is told instantly.
Yeah, well, you'll see some. You certainly see a lot of the combinations come off. The second thing that should happen is I think we should ban all these vaccine requirements and mandates for school, the military, and employment. I know you're in the military. You had to take them. I'm in healthcare.
I was never. Everybody thinks I was a military guy. I was never a military
Never in the military.
No.
Well, Grant, listen, I'm a doctor. I had to take them. I've taken a ton of vaccines in my life as requirements to be in hospitals, what have you. But I think what's happening now, the parents are really getting uneasy with this. You can imagine young parents. And, in Texas, if you go to state schools, there are philosophical, religious, and medical exemptions. They can download the form, fill it out, get it notarized, and your kid does not have to take vaccines if you go to public schools. But not true, Grant, for private schools.
Wow.
Private schools can say, listen, you have to take shots or your kid gets no education. So that has to end. And I think I think the third thing that needs to happen is this ACIP vaccine schedule should be suspended, and vaccines should simply, be available for everybody, but should be a individual doctor-patient decision only. Yeah. Nobody else should have a role in that decision. The government certainly shouldn't have. And then the fourth thing that should happen is I think we should remove all direct-to-consumer advertising for vaccines. I saw one on last night, advertising, go in and get a COVID and flu and RSV shots. The advertisements are deceiving. They make it seem like they make you look like you're healthier or more vibrant. That's not the case. The vaccines don't inject health into anybody. And they're a huge waste of money. And other countries don't do it. I think we should remove direct-to-consumer advertising.
Go figure, advertising, painting a picture that just isn't true. You mean race car drivers don't really drink Miller Lite?
Well, they better not drink it when they race. Advertisements, by their nature, tend to overstate the product and they tend to understate the risk, and people are deceived. And, the other pharmaceutical ads quickly get into abbreviations that we don't understand. I can tell you, Grant, the ads on TV are not targeting the patients. They're not. They're targeting people like me. They're targeting doctors. Yeah. They're actually trying to market us through TV. I just want to watch the Dallas Cowboys. I don't want to get marketing at every commercial break.
Yeah. I'll tell you, it's been sad for me because I really Doc, I trust you, and I trust the other doctors at the wellness company that come on this program. And I really mean it when I tell you that. I don't trust a lot of doctors anymore. I just don't think they're up on the latest technology. I don't think they're even looking, critically thinking, and I have a real hard time going to the doctor's office. You know me, I text you all the time. I'm sure I bother you with this, but I don't trust anybody else.
Trust is low, Grant. I can tell you, my patients do not want to be in the hospital. They do not. I had a patient of mine. He lives right near us, actually, in Dallas, in our neighborhood, and he developed appendicitis. So he went to, my former institution downtown, and he was terrified. He goes, "Are they going to give me a shot when I'm not looking? And are they going to give me a blood transfusion?" People don't want anybody else messing with their bodies now. Trust is very low. Wellness company, we do everything we can to put the power back on the side of the patient with natural products, the pre-prescribed kits where people can, follow a guidebook. They can make their own decisions. We don't want people tied to have to go to a clinic or urgent care or hospital. They can, in a sense, the motto we use is own your own health.
Hey, let me ask you one last question before I let you go, because I know we're just about out of time. I don't think I've ever asked you this before. Is there any vaccine you would take if you're going to go on a mission trip to Nicaragua or something? Or would you take a vaccine? Is there anyone you would?
I think it really depends on risk, Grant. Now, I recently went to Africa. I went to an endemic area for malaria, for instance, in Tanzania, and I didn't take any shots. But I think it depends on risk. I mean, there are some polio risk areas in Pakistan, for instance. Maybe I'd look at it carefully there. I think I'd worry much about my individual risks. So, for instance, let me give an example. My brother-in-law has had his spleen removed because he had a blood problem. Let me tell you what, he definitely needed to take the vaccines that cover what's called encapsulated organisms. And I told him, listen, you better get these shots. If a child has cystic fibrosis and has impaired lung function, they better get the respiratory shots. So I think it's much more on individual risk than anything else, Grant.
Well, that's important. Your answer is fabulous, as always, because for all those people, Dr. Hotez, who says these anti-vaxxers, you just proved them wrong. You just told me and the world, certain people on an individual basis who need vaccinations. Now, I have my spleen. I don't need the same shots your brother has, but apparently they want to throw us all into one group, I guess.
Right. And Grant, listen, I'm in healthcare. We deal with blood and what have you. I took the hepatitis B shot. I don't want to get hepatitis B. It's modestly effective, but you take it at the right time as an adult. You don't have to give a healthy baby at day 0 a hepatitis B shot. Rand Paul's a very smart doctor. Rand went to Baylor with me years ago. Rand's calling this out, saying, listen, this has gone too far.
Yep. It's fascinating stuff. I'll tell you, you guys do such great stuff over at the Wellness Company. The Spike Detox, I think, probably is the product of the day we talk about here to get this out of your system. And I urge people to go there. There you see it on the screen. I'm going to give people the address. Dr. McCullough, it's always great to see you. Where can people follow you?
Well, check me out on the McCullough Foundation website. That's where the report is, McCulloughFND.org. And, we're generously supported from public donations. We've really pulled through for the autism community. So start there, my professional website. I have a practice here in Dallas. I have a patient right after this, PeterMcCulloughMD.com. You can get information on how to become a patient. And then certainly follow me all over social media, Grant, just kind of climbing the ranks as you are.
Yeah. Well, all of your stuff on social media, especially, I can't tell you how much content I get from you and Nicholas and the Wellness Company. It's great stuff. Doc, as always, thank you for coming on today.
Thank you.
Absolutely. All right, folks. Again, I think we are safe to say the product of the day is the Spike Detox. TWC.health/Grant. Use that promo code Grant. It may be worth you, as Dr. McCullough said, going and getting tested to see where your levels are on all of that. And then start to use this product. Also, don't forget prescription medication kits right here. Ivermectin in this. There's a guidebook to help you with the safe use of all of these medications in here, made out specifically to me. And then, guys, the Mars product. You want to increase libido, stamina, testosterone, all the manly stuff that we love. Mars. Just go to twc.health/grant. It'll take you right to where you want to go. Use the promo code GRANT for 10% off. All right, folks, that's going to do it for us. I will not see you on the Real America's Voice show tonight because we don't have one. Special election night coverage tonight. I will be in North Richland Hills, Texas, with the Patriot Mobile folks. They're big sponsors of the Real America's Voice show election night coverage tonight. So I'll be out with them, and I'll be doing hits for Steve Bannon, who will be hosting throughout the evening for election night. So I hope to see you there. Thanks so much for watching, everybody. Stinchfield's Army rolls. We'll see you soon.